What's up guys, my name's Brandon and the Apple Watch Series 11 is amazing if you know how to set it up properly and how to use it to its full advantage. So in this video, I'm going to show you the first 24 things that you need to do on your Apple Watch Series 11. So these are going to be tips and tricks, the first settings to change, and just things you need to know about your Series 11 in order to get the most out of your new watch. Okay, so first off, you need to choose the perfect watch face for you. So this year we have two new watch faces. We have Flow, which is the one you see right here on my Apple Watch, and we also have Exactograph. So these both use that 1 Hz refresh rate to not only see the seconds hand while in always on mode, but also it uses the gyroscope to respond to your wrist movements. You can see it kind of moving around. So to add a watch face, just press and hold on your clock right here and you'll see this view. Swipe over and you will see new. Simply tap on new, and then we have new watch faces right there. So you can tap on that and you will see Flow, and then right below that we have Exactograph. So both of those are the new watch faces, and from here you can change different sections like the background, the style, the color, the complications, all of that. So my favorite way to do this is just set it as default and then go to the watch application on your iPhone. This is the pre-built-in Apple Watch application, and from here just tap on the watch face that you want to customize. So we'll go to Exactograph, and from here you can see those options a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to change those right here. So you get these different modes. Just go ahead and change the complications to whatever you want and the colors to whatever you want inside the application to fit your vibe for your Apple Watch. And you might also want to try out the Photos watch face on your Apple Watch. So this now uses liquid glass because we have watchOS 26. So if you head into the watch application and go to Face Gallery at the bottom, this is where you can see all of the watch faces. And from here, we can go ahead and tap on Photos and we'll select one for photos. And you can see it does now use liquid glass for the time right there, the font, and you can add a photo. Now, the next thing you need to do is learn how to use the wrist flick gesture. So what this does is it allows you to dismiss incoming notifications, mute calls, silence alarms or alerts, and also return to the watch face without ever needing to use your other hand to press anything. So if I have a timer right here, this timer is about to end, and check out what I can do to dismiss that timer. I can just flick like this and there it goes. It knows that I'm trying to dismiss that notification just with that little wrist flick gesture. Now you do need to make sure this is turned on, so go into your settings on your Apple Watch and we're going to scroll down, and you want to go right here where you see gestures and make sure gestures is turned on, and then scroll down and you will see that we have a wrist flick option, and it says quickly turn your wrist over and back to dismiss anything and return to your watch face. So even from this settings view, I can just do a wrist flick like that and it will take me back to my watch face. It's a really useful gesture that you need to get used to using. Now real quick, something else you need to do on your Apple Watch Series 11 if you didn't already do this in the setup is set up your cellular connection. So if you have a cellular Apple Watch Series 11, make sure you set that up because we do have 5G on the Series 11 now. So instead of just regular LTE, you do have 5G, so connectivity should be a bit better than in the past. Now we're going to go back to gestures because there's another really useful gesture that you need to know on the Apple Watch Series 11, and that is the double tap feature. So what this means is you're going to take your index finger and your thumb while you're holding out your watch and just simply pinch like this twice quickly, and that will invoke the double tap feature. This allows you to scroll through any application hands free. So you can see I can even scroll through my different settings right here on my front page, my smart stack there. So if we go into an application, for example, let's just go into music, and we're going to go into music and we're going to double tap right there, and you can see that will take us and kind of scroll us down through these different songs. And this is extremely useful for messages because you can see I just got a message right here as a notification, and I'll never have to use my other hand to be able to read and reply to this and also send another message. So I can just do a double tap gesture right here and it will automatically go into messages right here, and I can either, it's going to automatically invoke dictation, so I'm automatically saying whatever I want to say, and when I'm done I can just simply double tap again and it will send that message. So here we go, and it will send it just like so. So I can read the message, I can type out what I want to say with my voice, and I can double tap again to send that message all in one sequence without ever using my other hand. Very useful, and this is also something you can use to dismiss a timer as well. So if I set a quick timer, 5 seconds. So again, I can use the wrist flick feature, or I can just double tap like this, and that will also select the X and it will dismiss that timer as well. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed it, but there was a sound coming from my Apple Watch there. I was able to hear the timer. I may not want to hear that on my Apple Watch. I may just want to have it always in silent mode. So the next thing you need to do is make sure to enable silent mode and disable most notifications on your Apple Watch, because you simply don't need all notifications on your Apple Watch because they can be very distracting throughout the day with your wrist constantly constantly vibrating. So to do this, we're going to go into our settings here and we're going to scroll down until we get to sounds and haptics. And from here, you'll want to select silent mode. You want to turn that on. Now that is only if you want to, mute all of your sounds. If you don't want to do that, by all means, do not, turn that off. But most people, I think, would like it to be where you don't have sounds constantly coming from your Apple Watch. Now, also, you will see that we do have automatically adjust volume. Now, this is another new feature here, and you may want to have silent mode turned off if you do want to have sound coming from your Apple Watch, but you maybe want to be smart about it. You don't want it to be always loud in every situation. So this is a new feature in watchOS 26, and basically what it does is, the volume of incoming calls and any notification that you get on your Apple Watch will adjust based on the ambient sound around you. So if you're in a quiet room or a library or something like that, your watch will not be super loud. It's not going to have a very loud ring, but if you are in a loud space, it's going to sound louder. So that's very useful. That way you may not always need to be in silent mode if your watch is aware of its surroundings. So you just need to choose whichever one fits your lifestyle and what your preference is. If you want it to always be in silent, or if you want it to be courteous of those around you while still making a sound, you can choose which one is best for you. And when it comes to disabling notifications, I would recommend doing this on your iPhone instead of on your Apple Watch. It's just a bit easier and quicker. So go to your Apple Watch settings and go into notifications and then scroll down until you get to this section that says mirror iPhone alerts from, and you want to deselect any application that you do not want alerts from on your Apple Watch that you may want on your iPhone. So for example, things like Reddit, TikTok, TV, I may not want those notifications on my Apple Watch, but I may want those on my phone. So you can choose that right there. And then you have other notification settings here as well, like messages. You can mirror the iPhone or have it be custom. You could do things like, mirroring news. You have noise right here, so you could change your noise settings. You have all these different things for notifications that you can do. And you could also have show notifications on wrist down if you want that to be enabled or disabled as a whole. And you can also choose between applications. And while we're on the topic of silent mode and notifications and things like that, you'll also want to make sure that cover to mute is turned on. So if you go back into our settings on our Apple Watch right here, we're going to go back into the gestures view right here. So this is also where that double tap is that we just talked about. But down here near the bottom, we have cover to mute. And this is one of the most useful gestures on any Apple Watch. And that is that when you receive an alert, you can simply mute it or dismiss it by covering your watch like that. You just put your palm over it and that will take you right back to the watch face and it will mute any type of notification that you're getting. Now, in my opinion, sleep tracking is one of the best reasons to get an Apple Watch because it works so well. And now with watchOS 26 and iOS 26, we have a sleep score. So you can now get a score based on the sleep that you got that previous night, which of course is tracked using your Apple Watch, but you need to set this up properly. So go into your Apple Watch right here, and we're going to look for the sleep icon on our home screen right here. So it should be right here. It's a purple one now with watchOS 26. And from here, you can see we have the sleep score set up, but if you don't have it, you will see where you need to set it up right here. So we'll just go ahead and tap on the little alarm up in the top left-hand corner. And from here, you can see your wake up, and you want to make sure that your alarm is turned on and you set up your wake up schedule. Now you can do this on your iPhone as well. It might be a little bit easier, but you need to make sure it's at least turned on your Apple Watch. So we're going to go into our watch settings and we're going to go down to the sleep section. And from here, you want to make sure that track sleep with Apple Watch is turned on. And you will also have an option for charging reminders. So if you want to be reminded to charge before going to bed, you will have that. I find that to be very useful. So I'd recommend turning that on. And also you have sleep apnea notifications. If you want to get a notification, if your Apple Watch is detecting any type of sleep apnea, you can have that enabled. And then on your iPhone, go into the clock application and go over here to alarms, and you want to set up your sleep schedule right here. So if you go to change, this is where you can change, your sleep schedule and when your Apple Watch will go off with the alarm, which of course is a vibration on your wrist. So you set it up right here and that will put you in sleep mode and it will track your sleep for you. And I'd also recommend going into the health application and changing some of these settings in here as well, like using schedule for sleep focus. Also having a wind down period is really nice, along with a sleep goal, sleep results, and sleep reminders. All of those are really nice to have. So I'd recommend going in and changing that as well. You could change your schedule or add another schedule here as well. Now the Apple Watch can be kind of confusing when it comes to all the applications that you see see on your watch face here. It can be kind of overwhelming to see all these applications and not really knowing where everything is. So the next thing you need to do is reorganize your applications. So you can do this in a couple of ways. So first off, if you scroll all the way down to the globe, you do have a list view. Some people might find that easier to see everything in alphabetical order and just kind of a list of applications instead of a grid view. So you can do that. Also, if you go into your settings, we have app view right here, and this is where you can change between a grid view and a list view as well. And something else you might want to do is go into your Apple Watch application on your iPhone and scroll down to where you see installed on Apple Watch. And if you don't want the applications that are already installed, just simply tap on that and deselect show on Apple Watch. That way it doesn't show up on your Apple Watch, but it stays on your iPhone. And to prevent every single application that you download on your iPhone also going to your Apple Watch, we need to change a setting in here as well. So we're gonna go into our settings, we're gonna go into general, and right here where it says automatic app install, you might wanna turn that off. That way it doesn't automatically install every application that you install on your iPhone onto your Apple Watch as well, because again, it can become a jumbled mess right here on the watch face if you have too many applications showing up. And by the way, you can also move these applications if you want, so just tap and hold on it just like you do on the iPhone, and you can move these if you want it to be like closer to the middle of the grid or wherever you wanna move it. You can move that very easily as well. Now here's another little tip to fix something that a lot of people find to be kind of annoying on the Apple Watch, and that is that when you play media, whether that be a YouTube video, Apple Music, anything like that, it will automatically show this view on your watch face where it always shows the song that's playing right there instead of staying on your watch face. Now if you want to change that, you can. If you want to disable that, you can. So we're gonna go into our settings right here on our Apple Watch. We're gonna go into the general tab, and we're gonna go to auto launch and then go to live activities settings, and then scroll down until you see media apps. And from here, you want to turn auto launch to off. So by default, it's to Smart Stack because again, once you play media from an application, it will take you to the Smart Stack and show that little view. But if you want to turn that off, just simply change this to off. Now here's two more things that you want to do on your Apple Watch that will make your life so much easier. So number one is unlocking your Mac with your Apple Watch. You can change this in your Mac settings. If you go into the Touch ID and password section, you can unlock your Mac with your watch, and also using Apple Pay from your Apple Watch. So instead of tapping your phone, you simply tap your watch. And also with boarding passes, if you have a boarding pass for an airline, you can load up the boarding pass QR code on your watch and scan your watch instead of needing to take out your phone. So I'd recommend setting both of those up. And if you want to pay with Apple Pay on your Apple Watch, just simply double press this button right here, and that will launch your Apple Pay balances as long as you have that set up on your iPhone. Now, also with the Apple Watch Series 11, you want to set up Workout Buddy in the fitness application. So if you use your Apple Watch for fitness purposes, which you should be using it for, you can go ahead in here. You can see the new fitness view right here. And when you play this, you can see that down here we have our Workout Buddy, where you can change the voice, you can change the alerts right here. You can have target alerts, different things like that. You want to make sure you set up your Workout Buddy to have a voice that you actually like. This is something that will give you feedback on your workouts and kind of just tell you some stats throughout the week as well. I find it to be quite useful, so you might want to change the voice and configure that. And by the way, from this screen right here, when you're going to do a workout, we also have this little music icon in the bottom left. If you tap on that, this will allow you to auto play media right when you start your workout. So you can have it choose songs for you based on your workout and what you've been listening to, or you can choose specific media from your Apple Music library. Now the Apple Watch Series 11 does have a depth gauge and a water temperature sensor, so you can have this set up to where you go into water, it will show you how deep you are and also the temperature of the water. I use this all the time if you're in a pool or if you go to a water park. You can just wear your Apple Watch and you can see this data very easily. But the thing you need to do here is change when this activates. So to do this, we're going to go back into our settings. We're going to go into general and then down here to auto launch. And you can see right there, it says when submerged, selected application. So for that, we're going to have the depth gauge selected. So that is the default right there. If not, you can select that. And also you have the threshold when submerged. So if you don't want this to activate right when you put it in any amount of water, you can have that set up. Or if you want it to be only at 3 feet. So if you don't want it to show, the depth and temperature until you're 3 feet under, you can do that as well. I like it to be immediately. So every time I stick my hand in water, it will show me the temperature and also how far down I am. It's very useful. control. Now, something else you might want to change is the wake duration on your Apple Watch to make it stay awake longer instead of constantly dimming where you have to constantly keep going back into your Apple Watch and unlocking it and things like that. So we're going to go into our watch application on our iPhone for this one. So we're going to go down here and we're going to go to display and brightness. And right down here at the bottom, we have wake duration. You might want to change that to 70 seconds because the default is 15 seconds. And again, this will reduce the amount of times that you have to re-unlock your watch and go back into it. And you do also have these options as well that you might want to change. That is to wake on wrist raise, which is when you do like this, it will wake up, as you can see, and also wake on crown rotation. So if I cover this and then I move the crown, that will also wake the display. So if you want to turn either one of those off, they are on by default, but if you want to turn those off, they are right there to choose. And also, if you don't like the always on display, this is also where you can turn that off, or if you only want to hide certain things on the always on display, such as your complications data, you can hide that until you actually wake up your device. So this is where you can choose, the applications, the live activities, all that for the always on view, which the always on view is this right here. So when you're not actively using your watch, it will show it always on so you can see the time at all times. Now, something else I just wanted to quickly mention is that the Apple Watch Series 11 has 2 times better scratch resistance this year for the front glass. So honestly, I would not worry too much about your Apple Watch getting damaged. I know a lot of people really baby their Apple Watch, but I think that you're pretty safe unless you constantly bang it against something hard. I think you're pretty good in terms of, scratches on your Apple Watch. So just a quick tip I wanted to mention because I thought about it. Now, here's another little tip for the Apple Watch Series 11. So you can actually play music or podcasts from the Apple Watch speaker, the built-in speaker. So this is great if you want to finish that song or that podcast when you maybe get out of the car and you're on the way in. You can continue that by playing it on the Apple Watch speaker. So to do this, just when you're playing music, you can go to the source view right here and you will see that it will play it on the Apple Watch. That will be a source and the sound will come out of the speakers. Now, here's a pro tip for the Apple Watch Series 11 that you need to take advantage of, and that is to start using Siri for literally everything, but don't say the S word, don't say Siri, just pull the watch up to your mouth and start speaking. So to enable this, you do need to have a setting turned on. So we're going to go into our settings right here. We're going to go down to where we see Siri. So go to Siri right here and make sure raise to speak is turned on. That way this will work when you raise your watch up to your mouth and you start speaking. And you can also do this by simply pressing on the digital crown right here and just saying 5 minutes. And there we go. We'll set a 5-minute timer without having to say the S word at all. Now, the next thing you need to do is know how to switch between applications quickly on your Apple Watch. So say you go into settings, then you go back, then you go into fitness, for example. If you want to be able to go back and forth between those applications quickly and see all of your other applications, just double click on the digital crown and that will open up the app view menu. So in here, you can see if you don't do anything, it will automatically go into the last opened application. So just know how to do that by double pressing the digital crown. And speaking of the digital crown, you might also want to know how to change the crown haptics. So to do this, go into your settings here, and we're going to go down until we get to the sound section. So sounds and haptics right there. And we're going to scroll down until you see haptics. And we might want to tweak this from the default because you can see that we also have a prominent section. So if you want your haptics to be off, that's when you don't feel any type of vibrations, you can have that turned off, or you can have it be prominent and you can actually you'll actually feel a demo of what default feels like and what prominent feels like. I actually find myself switching this to prominent just so I don't miss my alarms and some of my important notifications. So you might want to consider changing that if you have a hard time feeling the default haptics. And this is also where you can go to change your ringtone, your text tone, and all your other alert sounds. So if you want to change those, if you don't use silent mode, that is where you can change them. And down here, you also have the overall kill switch for crown haptics and system haptics. Now, in my opinion, one of the most annoying notifications to get on your Apple Watch are the reminders to stand. Like it tells you need to stand, for 7 hours a day or whatever. So if you want to disable the stand reminders, you can go ahead and do that. And also any other activity related reminders, this is how you can go ahead and do that if they annoy you. So go into your settings right here. We're going to go back and we're going to go down to activity. So we're going to look for the activity menu right here, and you will see that you have stand reminders right up top. So if you don't want a reminder to stand, if you haven't stood for the first 50 minutes of an hour, you can go ahead and disable that. And also you can see daily coaching. So if you don't want any type of coaching notifications, you can turn that off, along with goal completions, special challenges, and activity sharing notifications. That is where you can turn those off. And speaking of the fitness application, something else you might want to do is go into activity right here, because there's also a feature where you can pause your rings. So for example, if you got sick or if you got injured and you want to pause your activity rings, you can now do that. All you need to do is load up your activity rings right here and simply tap on it. And from here, you can change your goals and also pause your rings. So you can now mute coaching and goal tracking while maintaining your move streak. So if you pause your rings, even if you don't complete everything for the day, you will continue your streak. So you can set that for today, until Monday, until the next month, or a custom time up to 90 days in advance until you recover. Now here's a good tip if you use focus modes on your iPhone. The next thing you want to do is link your watch face to your focus modes. So for example, if we go into our iPhone right here and we go to our overall phone settings and we go into the focus section out here. So if we go to focus, you can see you have all your different focus modes right here. Now let's say I'm recording a video. I have the recording a video focus mode on. If I go down here to customize screens, you will notice that we can customize the screens that are enabled when we turn on this focus mode. So you might want to consider changing the watch face that appears for your different focus modes. Like if you're sleeping, for example, maybe set it to something that's a little bit easier on the eyes, like this black and white one. That way you're not distracted and your watch face isn't bright when you're going to sleep, or when you're working out, you may want this one. And when you're hiking, maybe you may want this one. So you can set those to different focus modes. So when I'm working, let's just say I want this one right here. We'll tap on done. And now every time I'm in that focus mode, it will switch to that specific watch face. So with watchOS 26, we got the Notes application, and this is something you'll want to take advantage of if you have an Apple Watch Series 11. So if you scroll down, you will see that we have Notes right here. If we go ahead and open that, you can see this is a full-fledged Notes application for the Apple Watch. And you'll be able to see all of your notes that you have on your iPhone. So here's what it looks like when you load up a note that you have written down. And if you go back and then go to the new right there, you can see you can create a new note that you could use dictation for, and this will also show up on your iPhone and all your other Apple devices. So you can view existing notes and you can create new notes straight from your wrist with the Apple Watch Series 11 if you have watchOS 26 installed, which you will by default. Now the next thing you want to do is make sure that you have your offline maps syncing to your Apple Watch, and this is perfect for hikes or outdoor activities in spotty connection areas, like areas where you don't have good connection or any connection at all. You might need offline maps to be able to navigate on your Apple Watch along with your iPhone as well. So to do this, go into the offline maps in your Maps application on your iPhone, and once you have a new map download or a new area downloaded, make sure you have Sync with Apple Watch turned on. And it says that new maps that you download to your iPhone will also download to your Apple Watch, which is key. And you might also want to select only use offline maps even when you have an internet connection if you want to save some of your battery life. And then the final thing we should do on our Apple Watch Series 11 is set up some important health settings. So go into your settings right here, and we're going to go down until we see emergency SOS. So if we go down here, we'll see SOS right here. So go ahead and tap on SOS. And from here, you will see some important settings. So first off, we have hold side button. That is to enable emergency SOS and contact emergency services if you need to. Also, fall detection. You might want to have fall detection turned on, whether that be only during workouts, or if you're somebody especially older or if you have injuries, you might want fall detection to always be on. And it's going to try to detect when you fall, and if you don't respond by a certain amount of time, it will call your emergency contacts and also emergency services in case you are in an emergency. And then if we scroll down even further, we have crash detection, which you should definitely have this enabled, so it will call emergency services after a severe crash. So it will detect that and send that to emergency services along with your emergency contacts. And if you go down here to medical ID, you want to go in there and make sure emergency contacts are set up and your whole medical ID is as it should be. And you can also set this up on your iPhone and the health application as well. The most important part is making sure your emergency contacts are set up in there. So there you have it. Those are some of the first things that you need to do on your Apple Watch Series 11, along with some tips and tricks that you need to know about. So if you want to see even more tips and tricks about the Apple Watch, I will leave another video linked up in the cards and down in the description below if you want to learn even more. But I hope this video gave you some tips to get you started off on the right foot with your Apple Watch Series 11. If it did, give this video a thumbs up. Also leave a comment down below with which Apple Watch you got and what the first thing you did on the Apple Watch was. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.